Greetings and welcome to America's Talking, powered by the Center Square. I'm Dan McCaleb, executive editor of the Center Square Newswire service. With just a couple of weeks left until the potential for another partial shutdown, the U.S. House has passed 5 more appropriations bills in the form of 2 minibuses since returning from holiday recess. Joining me to discuss this is congressional reporter Therese Boudreau. Therese, as we begin recording this, there's breaking news to tell our listeners about.
Yes, that is true. So the Senate just passed 3 more bills in the form of a minibus, which have already passed the House. So they are going to President Donald Trump's desk for signature. And once he signs them, that means that Congress will have knocked out 6 of the 12 appropriations bills that fund federal agencies, as we're already in fiscal year 2026. So this is a big step forward. It's very late in the making, and they still have 6 more to do, but this is progress. So the main question is now whether that the Congress will get the remaining 6 done on time, because on January 30th, that's when the current continuing resolution that's keeping government funding levels on cruise control, that's when it expires. And so if lawmakers don't get all the funding bills done in time, either the government will shut down partially, so those areas of government that have not been covered by appropriations bills for this year, those will be shut down, or because there's not really an appetite for that at all after last year's record-long government shutdown, they'll probably pass another CR to buy themselves more time. And that would be I believe the 5th, maybe 6th time that they've punted the deadline to fully fund the federal government. Those agencies that haven't been covered yet by these, on fresh funding from these new appropriations bills are still running off of funding from 2 fiscal years ago. So money from fiscal year 2024. They just run running at the same levels. And of course, a lot of Republicans especially don't like that, because those are levels from the end of the previous Biden administration. So it's, again, making progress, but it's not exactly going as fast as a lot of people hoped.
So what was in the minibus that passed today in the Senate, Therese?
Yeah, so there was funding for Department of Justice, Department of Energy, Commerce, Interior, the Environmental Protection Agency. Those are the main ones, but there's many agencies and offices under those that got funding as well. And so that adds up to roughly $180 billion all total. And again, that's now heading to the president's desk for his signature. And then the Senate is also, Majority Leader John Thune is hoping this week that they can also send to Trump's desk a 2-bill minibus that the House also passed this week. And if they do that, then we would be up to 8 funding bills that are taken care of. So that would be the ideal scenario. But again, with the Senate especially, it's just that their schedule is so in flux. It's so dependent on, different lawmakers that have, reservations or different holdouts, and people have to talk about these things and make deals. And so it's hard to predict whether that will actually happen.
I think both the House and the Senate, though, Therese, has moved more quickly in the last 2 weeks than we thought. However, the Senate is out all of next week, correct? And the remaining 4, if they do pass this other 2-bill minibus, the remaining 4 are pretty much the trickiest of all of them. Is that correct?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. So again, one of the reasons why it is very important that the Senate hopefully passes the 2-bill minibus this week, which covers financial affairs and government operations, and then some national security offices and agencies, is because next week they're going to be out. The Congress just returned in early January from their holiday recess, but the Senate is now recessing again next week. So it's really imperative that they get that package, that 2-bill minibus, to the president's desk before they do that. And also, like you said, the remaining 4, so that includes, I think the thorniest ones are probably Department of Homeland Security funding, the bill that includes that, given the recent controversies with ICE in different cities and some of the protests and the violence that's happened. A lot of Democrats are really pushing Republicans to include measures such as requiring ICE to wear safety cameras, things like that. And so that's a really tricky issue. And then another huge one is the bill that deals with labor and health and human services, Department of Labor and Health and Human Services, not least of all because there's a lot of funding from the Biden administration for things like a bunch of refugee services for migrants or things like that. And while the bill in its current form includes less than funding than there was last year, it's still, a lot of Republicans think, much too high. And so there are other things similar to that, other funding levels and priorities and projects in the labor HHS bill that many Republicans are against and want to change. And all of that, all of that is, again, hundreds of billions of more dollars that are going to be spent. And so that's really where I think the focus is right now, where all eyes are on. If leadership can get people together and make sure that lawmakers just settle on a compromise and just get these bills done before January 30th, or whether people are going to continue to make a fuss and, who knows what happens there, whether it's a shutdown or, again, another funding stopgap that covers who knows how many months. I mean, we're already 3 months into fiscal year 2026. Lawmakers were supposed to have passed all 12 of these bills by October 1st of last year. That was the beginning of fiscal year 2026. And of course, we had that shutdown because Democrats refused to vote for a continuing resolution, and that lasted 43 days. So again, they just got started on government funding for this fiscal year before they left for holiday break. Now they're coming back. They're trying to speed run things. So it's a really tricky issue, and I think it's hard to predict how this is going to play out. But today's news that the Senate has passed and sent to President Trump's desk 3 more bills is very good news.
Therese, thank you for joining us today. Listeners can keep up with the progress on these bills at thecentersquare.com.